This is how Brez Scales made $1.1 million in just 7 days after his free day event funnel that he just launched about a week ago. Now, we're going to be covering, first of all, this is part 2 of the series. In part 1, we covered what the event was, right? All of the marketing, what the back-end offer was. And in this part 2 series, we're going to cover the amount of money that he made after the 1 week, after he shut down enrollment to his back-end offer. Exactly what within that 1 week time period allowed him to make as much money, $500,000 in just 2 days, so that you know the best practices that allowed him to recover a lot of the money that was being left on the table. And we're also going to be breaking down all of the different things that he split tested with the new landing pages, the new funnels, the marketing practices on WhatsApp, Instagram, Gmail, and YouTube. And also we're going to look at the upsells and how much money he could be looking at making on the long term just from his clientele base and the people he enrolled over this week period. So that being said, let's dive straight into the juicy stuff. Now, for those of you that haven't been in part 1, first of all, go watch it so you get an understanding of how exactly he prepared everything and how much money he made on the front end. But a little recap is that at the back of the free day event, he was selling a course for $997, right? It came with the pre-recorded content, community access, and for the first people, a one-on-one onboarding call for the first people that were signing up. In terms of results, after 24 hours of the free day event, on September 18th, I took a screenshot of how many people he enrolled, and that's 550 members, right? Like we covered in part 1 of the series. And that showed that he made $550,000 just after 24 hours. Now the results after 1 week, again, I went to the payment provider and looked at the stats of how many people he had enrolled 7 days after, and that's 1,140 people that ended up paying for his course. That means he would have made $1.1 million in just 7 days. Now let's look at the result time frame to get an idea of how everything looked day by day to understand how things went about. Because after 24 hours, we know he made 550 sales. Then in the next 4 days, usually, right, when you launch something, it's still fresh. That's where you would have the most amount of sales happen. In 4 days, he was only able to make another 150 sales from it, right? What's very interesting is that on the 5th day, on September 23rd, he launched something that allowed him to make more sales than all of those prior 4 days combined. And this was, let me just quickly take this away, a 24-hour free training that he put out, that he hyped. And that asset alone, that we're going to break down in a second, allowed him to make 250 sales within 24 hours of having launched it, right? And then on the second day, right, which was also the last day, before he was closing the enrollment completely, that also allowed him to make another 188 sales. In total, in those 2 days after the free training, he was able to make about 440 sales, almost the same amount of sales that he was able to make right after the event. That's how effective this was. And this is right where it gets very interesting, because a lot of people run these free day events, these funnels, but don't capitalize on the money that's being left on the table. And this right here shows exactly how many people were on the sidelines wanting to get in, and how effective this practice was here to reconvert, essentially retargeted people and get them to sign up for his front end offer. Now, we know it's the free training event, right? In 24 hours, he was able to make $250,000 from it. In 48 hours, he was able to make $440,000 from it. How did everything look, and how did he position stuff, and what was the content within? First thing we're going to understand is that the free training was something that he hyped up, and then that he was also going to launch as a premiere on YouTube, just the way he did with his free day event. And we're going to cover the marketing in a second to see how he hyped it up, but this is how it unfolded and what it actually was. Now, first thing is first, I took a screenshot because this is stuff that he took down afterwards. And the free training was a 2-hour and 30-minute YouTube premiere that he put on. And this is the thumbnail that everyone got to see when he was hyping it up. How to sign your first freelance brand scaling client. And essentially, right, everyone thought it was a free training, but what it really was is a 2.5 hour VSL that throughout, as you're going to see in a second, allowed him to convert the people and get him to come to his front end offer. So he was providing value in the front end, right, helping people get clients, but he was then at the back end selling all of the systems to help people scale. So again, as I put it here, it allowed him to further nurture the people who stayed on the sidelines after watching the initial 3-day event and then converting through this piece of funnel. In terms of view performance, the way it looked is, it's very interesting to note also that here took a screenshot of episode number 1. After 2 days, episode number 1 of the 3-day event got 240,000 views. After 1 day, this free training only got 50,000 views. Why is this important? Because what this shows to us, he was able to convert as many people, which we said was 440 sales, from a much lower view ratio count. And again, this shows that this piece of training acted essentially as a retargeting ad, in other words, as I put it here, to reconvert all of the warm people that were on the sidelines to join in. And we know that the sales, a lot of the sales were, right, all thanks to this piece of marketing that he put out. Now, what was it and how did these 2.5 hours look like? As I said, this was a VSL and this followed a typical VSL structure. So here I took some screenshots and some time stamps to get a better understanding of what it was. First thing is first, he showed the title of what the training was, and he also let people know what they're going to learn in that training session, right? He was setting the expectations. He was also putting out a giveaway again at the beginning, just to make sure that people stay to the very end of the training, and he would then hand them out the incentive of, I believe it was $500. And this was again to make sure people who are incentivized to stay to the end are going to watch it, are going to get consumed, and there's a high chance they're going to, right, sign up with the FOMO and all of the value that he was providing. Then he also showed testimonials in the beginning, and this was in the first 20 minutes, right? He showed the steps of what to expect, the giveaway incentive, testimonials, and he also showed how he tried other business models and how these then work for him. Now, this becomes really effective with his ICP, and for you to understand why, this is why again I urge you to watch part 1 where we go deep into who his ICP was and why these particular segments were so effective at converting these people. But right after stage 1, right after the first 20 minutes, in the next 30 minutes afterwards, up to mark 50 minutes in, he showed how to actually sign clients. So he delivered on what he helped people with, that he said that he was going to help them with. And he showed the methods of how to help people. But of course, in 30 minutes, you're not going to be able to provide everything, right? As much value as you want to. There's still going to be much more value to share, and you're going to need more time. And this is what he was able to hook people in and tell them, right, this is the offer again that I presented last time. You're going to get more hands-on experience. You're going to have the community. You're going to have much more content to succeed in this. And this is where after this, he went to pitch again his front-end offer of the last event. He showed what people would get and what his offer was priced at. Right after that, he also had an FAQ section, right, for 10 minutes where he showed people frequently asked questions, right, like this example right here, how quickly will I see results? Can I still sign clients with no experience? And this was essentially handling objections of what they understood from the days prior that people had questions about their offer, right? And then at the end, they also announced the giveaway that they initially promised at the very beginning. And then for an hour of the training, the VSL, right, he did a Q&A helping people out directly. First, he showed a whole value stack of what people would get from his offer, right? Of what everything would be priced at, over $40,000 of value, now only priced at $1,000. And he also added some additional bonuses that he didn't do after the 3-day event. And this was again to give this additional push to people to convert. And what he did really interestingly as well was screen share, go into the community and ask people in live, right, not scripted or anything, what they thought of the program. And of course, a lot of people were really happy with the results, and that helped them, again, authentically show what people thought, real testimonials and real results, and get people more fired up to join. Of course, we got to understand that at this point, he also let people know that he was closing the doors to his front end offer in the next 48 hours. So people were extra hyped up to take action. Now, what did people see when they wanted to actually join, right? Of course, to join, you would have to click on the onlydecision.com landing page, right? Which is what the branding was all about. And what was very interesting to note is that when you clicked on that, after he showed the free training, people were brought onto a new landing page. Because in part one, we covered the landing page that he had to get people signed up for his event, and everything was structured so that he would have the highest amount of people signing up for this funnel. This new funnel under the same domain was focused at converting people, right? So this is the new landing page. Let's just quickly skim over it so you have an idea of what things look like. And one of the things you'll notice is that it's much longer than the initial one, but also it follows the same thematic. This was the initial one, right? You see, very straight to the point, both VSL type landing pages with one goal. This one right here was to convert people to sign up for the event. The other one was to convert people to actually pay for the front end offer. Now, in terms of landing pages, as I just said, the goal of the new landing page was to get people to actually convert. And so the structure is going to be much different. The initial landing page was to convert people to get them to sign up to attend the 3-day event. And when we look at the features is, as I said just now, right, the initial one was much shorter because the whole purpose was for people to watch the VSL, to understand what the event was going to be about, to be hyped up and FOMO'd in, and to essentially sign up by filling out this questionnaire form here, to then, for them to have all of the email details, right, to hype up the event and provide them all of the details and have as high a show rate as possible. The new landing page was solely focused at essentially showing, as I put here, the offer value stack of what people would get with the front end offer, because all of these people were already warm leads who watched the event, who were familiar with what was going to come, but they were not convinced enough to jump over. And what they did is they did a much more in-depth landing page to show people what they would get and allow them to better understand also the new bonuses that they would get if they join now, with the aim of converting them. And so what's interesting to note is that these landing pages, the only difference is their end goal and the length of them, but both of these are essentially VSL landing pages. As you can see here, the first thing that you get to see when you jump on them is a VSL video. Of course, the contents of each one of these VSLs is vastly different because of the back-end goals that they have, but you got to understand that this is part of the funnel, and what allowed Brez to do so well is to get his ICP to resonate with him because he's the front-facing brand. And these videos do extremely well at, of course, doing all of the indirect selling when you hit the pain points of the ICP. So this is the landing page, and was interesting to note that they even went so far to split test that, because a lot of people who run these 3-day funnel events don't even get to do that. And so this shows that they went the extra step. Now, in terms of marketing, what are the vehicles? Like in part one, right? It was very interesting to note that the front end vehicle was the WhatsApp group that they were using to notify people and, right, hype them up for the event. So they did for the week afterwards. They utilized the WhatsApp group that they had right after the event. This is what the posting schedule looked like. They did 2 posts a day after they finished launching the event, and on the final day, on the 7th day, when they were closing access down, they did 4 posts. In terms of posts, what did they do? Right after the event, first thing that they were putting out was FOMO content, letting people know, hey, there's already students getting results only after 24 hours of joining, and the whole goal was to get people in. Right after, on the 2nd day, they were already announcing on September 20th that he was going to launch the free training in a few days' time, and for people to be ready to tell them, hey, I'm also going to show you and give you additional value on how to sign clients. Because when we come to think about it, if you're going to implement this funnel, you want a piece, an asset of content that will actually get people to tune in. In this case, right, people want to learn how, in his ICP, how to make money with essentially freelancing or helping people to get agency clients. And so by him showing them how to do that, he's going to have a high show-up rate. So he started promoting it, and then the days after was about hyping up the event 2 times a day, telling them how special this day was going to be, how much value he's going to provide, how this is going to change their life. And again, this was to build FOMO. On September 23rd, one day before he actually did the free event, he was hyping it up with CTAs again. And on September 24th, this was the final day of after he launched the free training. And again, he was putting CDAs left and right to get people to sign up. He was also hitting them with urgency. So this is one of the interesting things he did, was change the name of the group from initially it being called Brez Scales, the only decision what the branding was all about in this front-end offer, to closes today number 102. And this was again to cause urgency and for people to understand that he was actually closing access to it and that there was only one day left to actually sign up. So this is what he did on the WhatsApp side of things. Let's go into the emails. In terms of email himself, I was on the email list. He was sending out 1 email per day after he did launch his front-end offer. And then on the final day, he sent 3 emails. So what's common to notice here with his marketing practices that he ran really heavy at the very end before things were closing down to make sure that people would convert. Now, in terms of the emails, you can see here he was sending 1 per day. Here I put some screenshots of what it was all about. September 19th, the first day after the first 24 hours of having launched, it was all about objection handling and CDA to get people to sign in. Then he was also afterwards calling out directly the prospect on not taking action and getting them to sign up. And then September 21st was urgency and CDA. And then on the day of September 23rd, where he launched the free training, he was showing more testimonials and getting people to actually take action and sign up. And so he did on the last day as well. It was pure urgency, letting people know, hey, like he did in this example right here, are you serious? You're really missing out on the chance of your life, right? And this is how he was, again, calling out the ICP, getting them to not want to miss out on this opportunity and get them to sign up. In terms of Instagram, he followed something very similar, but he did a bit less posting. So the one focus that he did have after his event was getting people to join his free event, right? He was saying, I'm hosting a private event. It's going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Swipe up to get the link. And this is through the ManyChat automation, how he then automatically sent to everyone an invitation to the YouTube premiere and getting them to show up, which was the free training that we just talked about. Where he also did postings was 1 day prior to the event, to the free training, he put out a YouTube video, and this was essentially a way to nurture people because this was a lifestyle video where he was showing all of the things right he's got right now, which is essentially this dream scenario of his ICP, and it was to nurture them prior to attending the free training where he was going to do all of the heavy selling before the event and the enrollment to his front-end offer would close. And he was also showing the giveaway winner, which is really interesting because what he was doing is in the 3-day event, again, go watch part 1 where we break everything down. One of the practices he put in to get people to have as high of a show-up rate as possible and complete the 3-day event was to give out $5,000 to someone who commented scale throughout the 3 days, throughout the 3-day events. He was also announcing the winner here, and this was to make sure that people who were already signed up, right, who watched the 3-day events but didn't sign up to the event and wanted to see if they were going to win, that they were going to watch this video to then also, again, if they hadn't signed up, realize the amount of value that he's putting out, the lifestyle that he has, and get them to hopefully see that dream picture again and want to attend the free training with the angle of signing up. And on the last day, right on the day of the event, he put out the links to get people to join aggressively to make sure that they will see the free training. And on the last day, he was also putting out testimonials and a countdown timer with urgency to get people signed up for the last few hours where they could to get involved in. And on his YouTube side of things, the only thing he really did was put out the YouTube video that we just talked about prior to the free training to, again, nurture people. So this is what things look like. Again, the front-end offer was the $997 course that he was selling, and after 1 week, he was able to make $1.1 million, $1,140,000 to be exact. And how much money can he be looking at making in the long term? As we covered in part one of the things he has on the back end is the upsells that he hasn't introduced yet. But when we go to his WAP, right, and we do some digging, we see he had an offer for $4,400. And most likely what's going to happen is on the front end, he was able to convert now 1,140 people for the course. As these people get results, right, some people will want to have closer access because this course doesn't include a continuous mentorship, right? And so people who either see results, they made some money, or people who haven't gotten results yet and want to pay more to have closer proximity are going to want to sign up for something like this if there's an upsell with a group mentorship. And this is what we covered in part one, and most likely what they're going to do with this offer that they haven't pushed out yet, but is there, right, on their payment system. And let's say, right, this is the group mentorship, which is most likely what it's going to be, where Brez either hops on one call per week and he has his team members who are on the payroll to attend maybe daily calls, group coaching calls with the people, or maybe they offer some one-to-ones every once in a while with the group specialists that he has on the payroll. This is easily worth for $4,400. And so if there's an upsell rate of 20% of the people who signed up for the course, who've already showed interest in the personal brand of Brez, who already paid to be part of his ecosystem and learn from him, right? This is pretty conservative. And so if he signed up 20 people from all of the 1,140 people he signed up for his course, that would be 228 people he could convert at his higher level program, which at $4,400, that would bring him in another $1 million from the upsells, which he may start implementing a month from now, 2 months from now. And so that means that over a 2-month period, right, he could, from the leads that he currently has, he will have made $2 million from this event alone. And this is just to bring perspective on, right, how these things look, what's really possible, and how a personal brand like him, who's only come up in less than 2 years, has been able to absolutely crush it, right? And is a perfect example of the marketing practices that are doing phenomenally well right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and drop down comments to let me know your thoughts.